Okay, I think this locomotive's been on this channel a couple times. This is my Bachmann shell that I bought off of eBay. No tender. I bought the tender separately, which was a Freedom Train tender. I wrapped the colors in black vinyl because I didn't want to paint it. I didn't want to ruin the tender. And I slapped the lettering on it myself, which is a little big. But anyway, so this is a GS4. They call it the War Baby, but I'm pretty sure the War Baby was actually a GS2 or GS3. It was not the GS4, but Bachmann called it that, so people bought into it. Anyway, so I bought the shell for like, I don't know, 20 bucks or something. And what it's got underneath it is the same as my other Bachmanns. I don't know if you can tell, but that is a Rivarossi chassis. That was originally a 464. And what I did was I cut the section off of another Rivarossi frame that had the same axle thickness. And I grinded the paint off of it, and I used old lead plumbing solder, stuff that's actually illegal where I live, which is in Massachusetts. It's a lot stronger than a regular electronic solder. So I removed all the plastic pieces from the frame, I undid the rivets and whatnot, and I soldered it. Then I ground it down. I actually ground a groove in the two pieces that it was mating together before I soldered it. Now, what I did was I made a template of where the three axles were out of a piece of cardboard, cut it with an X-Acto knife, and moved it over one spot, and that's how I knew exactly where this channel would need to be. Unfortunately, on this particular model that I made, the spot where the axle sat, which would have been a Baron, but Rivarossi just decided to cut a square notch. I don't know why. It ended up wearing they were prone to wearing the brass axles out. So I used, and once I show you this, I'll show you what I did. I used pieces of real duct tape, which is made out of metal, very thin. I glued it, folded it over into the spot where the axle sat to take up the slack, and glued it into place so the axle wouldn't teeter-totter and screw up the quartering. It's kind of a hack way of doing it, but I put hours on this locomotive and I haven't had any issues. So this particular one is entire Rivarossi. This is the Rivarossi rear truck, unlike my Daylight, and this is the Rivarossi truck in the front. Now these are the pistons in the front, and what I had to do is I had to pull them inward so they wouldn't touch the shell. I used a Dremel. I filed some of the plastic out of the shell, and I cut at an angle the piston to match the cut in the skirt on the body itself, so it sits right in there. I mean, it looks absolutely perfect. It runs great. It does not have a Rivarossi motor in it. They're too big. They don't fit in the shell. This has got a cheap 3-pole, not even skew wound. I didn't know that when I bought them, but they got plenty of pulling power and a little bit too much speed. They work all right. I put them in a lot of my trains. They're so cheap that I buy them by the dozen. The only drawback is the rear of the motor is not exposed, so you can't oil the Baron which a couple of the motors that I put in my big boys, because they're so big, I dismantled the motor, drilled the hole, put the motor back together so I could put a drop of oil on the shaft. But anyway, there's I don't know, 38 cars here on this train, and everybody says that rivarossi aren't very good pullers. And matter of fact, when I first got my first big boy with the original rivarossi motor in it, it struggled to pull 20 cars. Now mine will pull 50, but that's because I changed the motor. I got rid of the original rivarossi tires, and I added lead in basically all of them. So we're gonna go here. Oh, and this, by the way, this has 2 traction tires. One of the rims that I used off the donor train, it's got a traction tire, and it's got a traction tire here. And they're black rubber. They're not them plastic nylon ones that rivarossi used that were horrible. Anyway, here we go. It's very, very quiet. It's very smooth. It took a little bit of power to get moving. It's at about 5 or 6 volts right now. It took a little bit of power to get moving because it's pulling, I don't know, 38 cars, and some of them have plastic wheels, so they don't roll as easy as the ones with metal. But, I mean, she does it very easily. This is strictly DC. I didn't really feel like sticking a $100 decoder in it. I did it to my daylight, one of them, because I wanted it to have sound. But this particular one here, I really didn't care. So as you can see, it easily pulls. I never made it to half throttle. Well, maybe just about. The motor is very efficient. Doesn't need a lot of power to get moving. I do have some 3-pole skew wound motors that would give me better low speed, and there's even room for me to put a flywheel on it, but I don't really see a need for it. So I'm going to pull this train off the track. Just give me 2 seconds here. Got the old horn hook couplers, which are horrible. But I'll tell you one thing about these horn hook couplers: they don't let go. The KD couplers, when I'm pulling 30 cars on a train, even sometimes when they're brand new, they pop free. These sons of guns don't pop free at all. Okay, so you can see right there the piece of metal. It looks like metal. It's tinfoil. Well, it's not tinfoil, excuse me. It's metal. It's actually AC duct tape. It's the real deal. It's pretty strong. It doesn't wear that easily. That's in there taking up the slack, so the wheels aren't flopping around. See how they don't have a lot of play? There's a piece going across the top and a piece going, I believe, in the back side, so I wouldn't develop a quartering issue. Now, sometimes these rods here, one of them, the one that I use for a donor, actually went to this one that has the stud, the brass stud coming out of it, so the hole is bigger. Not on this particular train, but on another one, I had to solder that hole and then drill it back out so it was the right size, so the thing wouldn't be flopping. So that's what it looks like where I cut the pistons. Now these wheels here, obviously, were off of a rivarossi Hudson. They're slightly smaller than the actual wheels that should have been on this particular train. I think these are 77 inches or 75 inches, and what really came off this train was 79. When you break it down to scale, you're only, we're talking about a half a millimeter or a millimeter. Every foot is 3.5 millimeters, so if we're off by 4 inches on actual size, that would be maybe a millimeter. Nothing to write home about. Anyway, so I had to extend the truck bracket here. I think I did. I don't have my glasses on, so forgive me. I think I extended this a little bit. Anyway, you can see the plate covering this wheel is from another bottom of another train, and it's just tucked underneath there. And then the regular rivarossi screws. I had to use a Phillips screw here because that one was stripped out. Now, this is definitely jury rigged. I didn't want to use rivarossi trucks on this. I didn't want to waste them. This had the metal wheels with the isolators on them, insulators. So as you can see, I just stripped wire and wrapped it around the axles, and then drilled a hole. And it actually has really good electrical pickup because it's picking up from all 6 wheels. Actually, all 6 wheels. So it does all right. So that's basically it. Now, my daylight that has the DCC in it, I hollowed these out from the backside, put an LED in there, and put the train number on it. I used a paper clip and melted a hole through that, and had the wire coming out of the thin wire, little tiny miniature LEDs. Basically, if you strip a piece of wire and you take 2 little pieces of copper out of it, that's what the wiring in these LEDs are, except they're coated, just like the wire inside of a motor. So you have to strip the coating off to solder it. And then I glued the LEDs and I tapped them with green paint, even though they're already painted. I put a Mars light up here and a regular headlight down below that work off the DCC. And I gave it tail lights and a reverse light. I didn't do any of this stuff to this. I will add lights eventually. As you can see, this here is vinyl. I did a horrible job. Even though I wrap cars for a living, I did a horrible job on this. I just slapped flat vinyl over it for the time being. It gets really hot up here during the day, so this is in an attic. So some of it, I didn't trim off. But like I said, it was just for the time being. So, and it's got 2 traction tires, one here and one there, and there's some lead in there, so it's got a little bit of weight. And as you can see, it's got plenty of pulling power. It's got a hell of a lot more pulling power than a Dreyfuss Hudson Rivarossi. Not only does it have a stronger motor, but it has more weight, and it has 2 traction tires instead of just 1. So anyway, so that's that. Just to recap, this section of the frame right here was added. I added it. I moved the truck back. I did have to cut the truck so it fit underneath the firebox. I just drummeled it straight. And that was basically it. So if you got one of these things, that's Bachmann with a split chassis, and you want a little something more reliable, buy yourself 2 pieces parts trains, 464s, rivarossis, and you can easily do the same thing. I mean, I was out of the hobby. I was in the hobby in 1977. My first train was the Midnight Special. I'm 53. I got out of the hobby right before I got a driver's license. I've been out of it until about a year and a half ago. So if I'm capable of doing that, then I'm sure all you people that are out there that have been in the hobby longer than me can do the same. It just takes a little bit of imagination and patience. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a comment. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I could even, if you want to see what the frame looks like, I can even take it a train apart and post a video for you to watch. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great evening and a great weekend.